and audio. And this episode is about celebrating being Black, loving our essence, and loving who we are. In this video, we're going to talk about Black facts, uncommon daily truths, and have a guest speaker on Miss Zen. She is a book author and a podcaster. Also, she is
Hi,
go ahead and introduce yourself to the audience.
I'm Zen Ase. I am an educator and consultant, a podcaster, a spoken word artist, and poet and author. So I do quite a few things.
Okay, can you tell everyone where to get connected with you?
Um, there's a link tree that should show up on the screen. So, you can find me, Zen Ase, Zenase. So if you Google me, you should be able to find me. But I'm on Linktree, I'm on Instagram, Twitter. I have a podcast called the
Okay, Miss.
Recite Podcast.
Tell us a little bit more about your podcast then.
So I started my podcast when we were in quarantine and we were kind of all locked down. And I was looking for what I still had that I could work on that wasn't being interrupted by, Trump, by um, racism, by quarantine, by any of the things that were kind of being disrupted at the time. So, I decided to do a podcast focusing on what we still had, kind of internal things. So, the focus of the podcast is self care, self development, self empowerment. And I focus on using, books, journaling, interviews, as well as like wellness things like meditation, breath work, just to basically become your best self. Because the theory is if you do small changes in your life, they can lead to big results. And also, what we do within ripples out into our community. So, the kind of the logo is like the butterfly effect, like a butterfly sitting on water, and you see the ripples coming out.
Yeah, I love that. I love the butterfly image, and self love and self care is definitely what I'm working on myself in that journey. So definitely a lot of women can, resonate with that. So everyone, I want you to give it up to Miss Zen. She's gonna present a poem to you today.
Sure. So this poem is called Black Her Story. Nothing beautiful is born without struggle, without suffering. Art, infants, invention, and most of all, culture, my culture, as multi pronged as my DNA. 60% Congolese, 13% Welsh and English, 8% Irish and Scottish, 12% Ghanaian. Let's not forget equal parts Nigerian, Spanish, French, and Norwegian. Is it any wonder when I stared at my newborn son, white faced and blue eyed, when I learned my dad was harassed because my mother was light enough to pass, when family rejected me because I couldn't pass the paper bag test, that a part of me wanted to hate America? But I am America. a living, breathing melting pot. And I come from those who fought to be here in every war since the Civil, on Freedom Rider buses. The very church we owned burned to the ground. My uncle emblazoned on history books the face of Thurgood Marshall's case against segregated lunch nooks. I understood the need to reach for X, the unknown, when I grew up sleeping on land willed to my grands by our slave master. My mom's maiden name, his name. But beauty has come from this suffering, knowledge, accomplishments, pride, and many firsts. And my culture resonates and propels this beauty onto the American landscape. Great writers, Dumas and Hughes and Hurston, great singers, Ella, Aretha, and Fats, great musicians, Dizzy and Cab Calloway, showmen, inventors, scientists, humorists, all have their lineage, their landmark of scarred terrain, and all packed that dust under their feet and rose and overcame. And thus, when I look around, I know my ancestors would be proud that 72% of me, my Africanness, would shout out loud. My history calls to me, and my present responds boldly, loudly, proudly, strong. My her story marches on. Thank you.
I like it. I like it, especially when you spoke about the brown paper bag test and everything. Not being able to be light enough to pass. I resonate with that. A lot of people feel like that as well. Um,
Yeah, the poem was about all the aspects of, we a lot of us know that we come from slaves. Some of us, we have indigenous people that were always here. Black people were always here. But we come in many shades. My son, like I said, was born white skinned and blue eyed, but both his parents were black. And it's because we have so much white in us through slavery, you know. And so it's kind of making peace with that, making peace with both the ups and downs of the history, and seeing the triumphs, as well as realizing that we had to struggle a lot more than some other people who didn't come here on ships. And so it was kind of my own journey to making sense of all of the things that made me up, because when I did my ancestry DNA, and that's where that came from, those percentages, realizing that that literally is the history of slavery, that the only way I could be basically a United Nations in one person is that there was so much intermixing going on those plantations. And I am the result of that. My kids are the result of that. The way that they look, is the result of that. The fact that my son has green eyes is the result of that. So his eyes were blue when he was born, but now they're green. So that's kind of where that piece came from. Many, many, many pieces. I actually pulled two other pieces, but I've written many, many, many pieces about all different aspects. Some are very angry, about things that happen with some of the police brutality and things like that. Some are very uplifting. Some are very, just it's the whole range, because being black is a lot of things,
assortment, life. It is. It's all different emotions.
right.
Definitely, when you stated about doing ancestral DNA, my brothers and sisters actually did the same thing, and I just learned that I had a high percentage, about 62, 65 in Congolese too. And
Mhm,
and I just learned that I had a great great grandmother who was Native American.
mhm.
So, she had some blue and green eyes too. And I was like, oh my gosh, I'm finding out more about me. So once you find out more about you, you feel some type of dignity and that such. So You said you
Yeah.
had another piece.
Actually, I actually read, I said that I was an author. This is actually the latest book that I put out. And it actually has, it's a memoir,
I
so it's
saw
not
it.
complete poetry, but it actually has 122 poems interwoven within the story of my life. Let's see. So I actually had picked out two other ones just in case, we had time or you wanted me to share them. So this one is about how we had our own spiritual system before we were colonized. And it was a system that really dealt with nature and with equality between men and women. And that basically, if you think about Wakanda, everybody's probably seen Black Panther,
Yes.
and you had the king,
Hmm.
but you had the queen mothers. And you would see those scenes where the king had to come before the queen mothers and basically answer to the queen mothers. And that was really a matriarchal system
Hmm.
in the sense of somebody. I saw this TikTok and he was explaining the difference between patriarchy and matriarchy. And he was saying, picture a triangle. In patriarchy, you have the top guy, and everybody else at the bottom on the base of the triangle is working to make that top guy richer and more powerful. In matriarchy, the system
Hmm.
is flipped and the triangle is upside down. So you have the man and the woman at the top of the triangle, and they are putting all their energy into the child at the bottom of the triangle, because the child, that family unit,
Hmm.
is the basis of our whole society and community. And that child at the bottom is not just belonging to the mother and the father. That child belongs to the village. You have that African proverb, it takes a village to raise a child. So that's literally how the
Yes,
society was set
it
up,
does.
that men
It
and
does.
women were equal at the top. The child was the focus, and
Mhm.
creating a positive environment for all of the children of the village to grow up in, to be their best selves. And so this is kind of hinting on a little, doesn't go into all of that, but kind of hinting on, that the Garden of Eden being in Africa, and where we started and how far we've gotten from that. All right. Sunday, say garden, Eden pops to mind in Genesis, the birth of mankind and fruit and snakes. But paradigms shift as we age. See, Egypt's walls contain a tale, older and fairer than pastors tell, of the sharing of knowledge from a queen to a pharaoh. There is no fall, you see. The snake is knowledge, both bitter and sweet. The same venom that kills can medicine be. The woman, the conduit of divinity, but that's not what we were told. The Western world couldn't understand unity between woman and man, or woman as teacher, leader, scribe. And so it crafted a story full of misunderstandings. And ever since, we've been at war. Two sexes designed to love and adore the other, uplift, heal, and restore, have been destroyed by religious insanity. That often happens when something is copied. It's misunderstood as it is co opted. It's our job to learn the truth from the source, adopt it. The Garden of the Nile is still Eden to me, the source of art, philosophy that teaches how complete we be. It's Sunday after all, you see. So to Ra and Newt, all praises be. Amen. And grand risings, community, peace and blessings unto thee. So that's that poem.
That's beautiful. That's beautiful.
Thank
That's
you.
very beautiful. I did grow up with that saying that it takes a village to raise a child. Back in the day, the elders, they always watched out for people. Even in your neighborhoods, people was close, but now things have shifted and changed. So it seems as though the elders aren't as being such a village, and young kids and youngins are getting that type of essence. as it was before.
Well, a lot of things have changed, and one of the
Can you
things that
tell everyone
made that
how
change,
they?
well, I was going to say
Mhm.
one of the things that made that change is a lot of the
You can
younger
go ahead.
youngsters didn't want the elders' input. Don't tell my kid nothing. Don't say nothing to me. So when you cut that off, then later you want it. It's kind of hard for people to feel comfortable to give it because it comes. I saw this article, and a daughter was asking her mother to babysit, but the mother already had
Hmm.
like a plan. Like she had been making dinner at 6 o'clock for 50 years,
Hmm.
and she would give the kids a snack when they got out of school or whatever. But the daughter said, my kids don't want to eat at 6 o'clock, so you're going to have to make dinner earlier. And she was like, no, I'm not going to make dinner earlier. They get a snack when they come home from school, and I make dinner because need to have my schedule. You know what I'm saying? And so she
Hmm.
basically had to tell the daughter, if that's your requirement, I'm not going to babysit for you because I'm not going to change something that I've been doing for 50 years because your kids want to have dinner at 5. And that may seem like a petty thing to some people, but the idea that kids are going to dictate everything that adults do is disturbing to some older people. You know what I'm saying? Because we used to hear the saying, stay in a child's place, you know.
Yeah.
And it doesn't mean you don't
Yeah.
kids. It just means that you as a child aren't going to tell me when I cook dinner because you don't even know what goes into cooking dinner. You don't even know how much time it's going to take me. You don't even know what I need to do before I get to cooking dinner. So, here's your apple, or here's your crackers and cheese or whatever, and dinner will be served at 6 o'clock, So is that
Yeah.
kind of thing where some things have kind of gotten out of order in what some people believe is the structure of the household, and the kids are being given a lot of power, you know? And so some
Yeah.
people are like, yeah, I'm not going to be involved in that type of child rearing. You want to do that? I can't tell you how to raise your kids. I can just tell you what I'm going to do, you know? So,
Right. I see that a lot of times. I see that a lot of times where I work. I see children's kind of dictating and telling the parent what to do. No, I'm not going to be quiet. I want this and that. And the parent telling the child, you cannot have this. I got to make lunch, or don't act up in the store. Yet the child continues until the child gets their way, as if the child is
mm,
telling what the parent what to do. Like you stated, about it taking a village, and most of the children who have kids, grandparents to have more input on the grandkids, but not necessarily have too much input. You can't whoop them, you can't feed them, you can't do this and that. Basically, you can't raise them the way that they want. I feel like if you're gonna have that type of saying, then maybe you should just raise your own child and
mm,
in that such. But I do want to say, when it comes to a village, not necessarily kids and all, but young women and young men like me, we do look at our elders to, give advice in that such, and be there. But a lot of times now the elders step back and kind of take away from us and giving advice. They just sit back in the shadows. And I feel like in y'all message and advice can be conveyed more to us if you come forward and say something. We may not listen in that moment, but we will later on. Sometimes you gotta learn before you actually listen, but that person is actively listening.
true. That I
That's what
can
I
hear that,
feel.
I can hear that. Yeah.
So I do appreciate you coming on to the show and giving us a piece of you and introducing, pieces that you work on. That was very personal, and I wanted to see what does Black history mean to you?
What does Black history mean to me? Black history means, well, to me, the whole world is Black history because everything started in Africa. So Black history started everything. Then it kind of got interrupted with colonization and slavery. And now we're trying to, in a sense, play catch up. So to me, Black history is knowing who you are based on your um, the things that have happened to your culture, and also, you know, your ancestry, knowing the good and the bad. And I think that we can always be learning Black history. We can always be
Hmm.
learning about people who came before us, people who were the first to do many things. And we can always be learning and unlearning, you know, because a lot of things that we were taught, that we were inferior, or that we you know, we didn't come from a strong family or a strong community, or we didn't, you know, we were running around in the jungle with bones to our noses and things like that, when a lot of that's not true. You know, you have many different tribes, and the history of Black people is a history of excellence, and, you know, civilization and math and science and astrology and astronomy and culture. And every other civilization has borrowed from us and not given us credit, and they still do it to this day. So Black history is about understanding that we were the first and we are the original. And everything that you see when you talk about jazz, that's Black. R&B, Black. Rock and roll came from R&B. You know, pop came from rock and roll and R&B. Gospel is Black. The blues is Black. Country is a form of the blues. When it comes to the arts, we started it all. We started everything. So to me, it's understanding that we are the original mold. We are the beginning. And everything that we see in terms of art and science and math, it came from us. It started with us, and it has been changed and sometimes whitewashed. You know, and even if you look at our skin, you don't start with
Yes.
white or black. You know, we are the dominant. You start with black and get every shade under the sun, you know. So that's what science tells you, because you can't
Mhm.
go the other way. Every other lightness is recessive. So I think Black history is understanding that we are the original, and that we started everything, and many things have been stolen from us, and we have to reestablish our own sense of self and our sense of purpose,
Mhm.
and not let the things that have been stolen from us define us, you know, as lesser than, or as you know, something inferior.
Yes, I grew up with my dad always saying that I should keep my head up high, walk with a strong walk, and shake hands with a strong hand because I am enough. And I also knew that we have been in a lot of things. We have. It's just back in those times, we didn't know too much about copyright and about patents, education. They didn't want us to know too much of, which is education is the key and it's power. So a lot of times I felt like and knew that we created a lot of things. I'm learning each and every day that we created so much things. Like the other day, I learned that we actually had a young lady who created the pitchfork and the spatula for you using the grill and everything, and the light bulbs and everything. We just work with our hands. We are very dedicated people and creative, and we need to get back to thinking that we are capable of being more than stereotypes. I've
That is
also
so true.
learned that in my journey, yes, in my journey, I wrote a couple poems too. And with that being said, I found out that it was a woman named Phyllis Wheatley who published her own first book of poems, and it kind of resonated with me and made me very proud because I did the same at a young age when I turned 18. I actually published my own. Now we all make mistakes and might have to go back and unpublish and re-edit and everything and that such, but it goes with the arts. You never know. And it was just, really powerful to know that someone else, a younger woman, had created a book of poems too. And Frederick Douglass did too. So it was very nice to know we are very creative people.
We
Is
are
there
a
any
very
new facts that you learned lately?
yeah, we are a very creative people. One of my favorite writers is Langston Hughes, and he was also the first Black writer to make a living from his writing in the 30s and the 20s before the civil rights movement. So, when I think about, you know, me being able to make money from my writing, he's my inspiration, because if he could do it back then when there were much fewer opportunities, then I can definitely, do some things now with all of the opportunities that I have in front of me. So it definitely keeps me feeling encouraged. And I think that that's another thing that Black history does, for me and for many people. When we look at, there used to be a song, when my soul looks back and wonders how I got over, and not just how I got over, but how all the people before me got over. And when I see their strength, when I see their beauty, when I see their fight and their purpose and their goals and determination, then it kind of reminds me that I have some of that flowing through me in my veins, because those people are my ancestors, and they may have left this physical plane, but they left a part of themselves within my DNA. And, I think a scientist said something like we have something like over 1,200 ancestors flowing through us, and that's a lot of people that imparted a lot of things.
Right.
And so, yeah, so I think that that's an amazing thing to think about, is that we are actually, they say we are ancestors reborn, because within our DNA, we have all of those things that they left us, and you can trace your DNA back for many, many, many generations. But that's something that
Mhm.
I'm reminded of, that when I feel like, okay, I can't do anymore, or I've hit this wall, I realize that there's actually a lot more in me than I might be giving myself credit for. And I can keep moving forward and keep pushing on. So I think that that's another thing that this month should remind us of, is the greatness that we come from and the strength that we come from and the ability to overcome and transform that we come from.
Yes, ma'am. I definitely, when I think of Black History Month and think of all the ancestors and people before me, I think of their strength and what they endured and what they, got from for us to be here in this state and, being different times. We still go through some type of oppression, but not just to look back and see what they done for us and what they got through give me very much strength even with my writing at times at times I dismiss promoting my book, but when I think of this month it gives me inspiration to get back to that writing, get back to that purpose and that person that I was, and was powered by that I knew that I had to speak about it, not be silenced. You never want to be silenced anymore. And I feel like you said, we are our ancestors. Our ancestors are us. They're flowing through us every day. I say that all the time, especially when I'm cooking. I'm a season until my ancestors tell me to stop. I love it.
I pulled out one other piece, and two of the pieces that I read, or I'm sorry, two of the pieces that I plan on reading are in my book. I want to read one more. You were talking about oppression. Now, this piece is a little more angry. um, And it is kind of about oppression.
Okay, go ahead. You can go ahead with the.
Oh, okay, okay. Snow. Born in the South, there's a different take on snow, a different take on seasonings, a different take on seasons, a different take on colors. Snow, white, pure, and precious, like everything white is purported to be, like whitewashing. But mold can be white and deadly, fungus, and hoods dusted off in the middle of pandemics, snow white. Like pale knuckles clutched around guns at the Capitol, like eyes popping out under wrinkled foreheads above snow white beards, under screaming lips, stretched around snow white teeth, but not black and blue, not faces turned red from blood spattered on no longer snow white pavement, because thugs are brown, because protesters are white. Snow. They must be right, though, because snow is always seen as pure.
I like that. Yes, white and snow has always been seen as pure, but once you get a little bit of dirt, a little bit of brown, unclean.
Right. And so that
I
that piece
like
was
that.
really about
I like.
how they portray us many times as thugs and violent, and then they portray, you know, white people doing the same thing as, you know, innocent, you know. And you look at media coverage of different things,
Mhm.
they'll call a 12-year-old black boy a man and a 21-year-old white man a boy. You know what I mean? Things like that, that skewing
Mhm.
of criminalizing us for just being, calling us thugs when we're not, and calling actual thugs something else, you know? So that's what that piece is about. It's about the fact that they're a lot of times given the benefit of the doubt and seen as pure and innocent
Yes,
because they're white, and people of color
period.
are assumed many times to be guilty. So it's the opposite, you know. So yeah.
Yeah, we're assumed to be violent, very rowdy, aggressive, loud, all that such, when half of the time it's not even true.
True. Yeah.
Very true. Yeah, yeah. Well, I really enjoyed having you on here and you speaking
Well,
your
thank you for
pieces.
having me.
Can you tell the people, no problem. Can you tell the people how to get connected with you one more time?
So if you Google me, Zenase, Zen Ase's books, they're on Amazon. So you can find, I actually have 5 books out. Two of them have poetry in them. One is a children's book with poetry. So that's actually my third book that has poetry in it. I have the podcast Zenergy, Zennurgy. The link tree is on the right under my face on this video. So if you type that in, that'll actually take you to my books. I do writing workshops if you're local in the area. Actually, I'm doing one on Zoom March 24th. So actually, if this episode is out by then, anybody anywhere in the world can come on Zoom, and I'll actually be doing a writing workshop about transforming pain into power. So, like I said, through my link tree, through Google and my name, you can see me on Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn, Twitter, on Amazon, through the podcast Energy. So you can find me all over the place.
You can find me. And did you self-publish your own books yourself through Amazon?
Yeah, I did self publish my books through KDP, which goes right to Amazon, and some of my books are on Ingram Spark as well, which goes to everywhere. Like some of my books are on Walmart.com and BarnesandNoble.com and all over the place. So
Well, you really inspired me to get back to writing and poetry and getting my book back out there and maybe others. So I really appreciate you coming on the show today.
Well, thank you. I'm glad. And thank you for
Yeah,
having me.
you're welcome. You have a good night.
You too.
Thank you. All right, K's vibes. So you just heard How to Find Miss Zen. That piece was very beautiful, and I'm gonna jump back to our topic. Our topic is about, highlighting Black talent and celebrating Black History Month, all the essence and all what we are and how creative we are. We're going to go into some uncommon Black facts that many don't know. So I've learned from a page called Paycor that Nat King Cole was the first African American to host his own TV show in 1956. 1956. I knew myself growing up that I always wanted to be on TV and Netflix. So maybe one day. I knew that I always wanted my own radio station or talk show, and I created this myself. So, like I said, you can be anything, you can create anything. You just have to start with a dream, like Martin Luther King said, with a dream. And you write and you keep doing it, no procrastination. And so I'm gonna go on to say, Phyllis Wheatley was the first young woman to publish a book of poems. Frederick Douglass also had a book of poems, and we're going to speak about many more facts. How about the first colony to ban slavery in 1777 was Vermont. Vermont. I know that Juneteenth is way past, but to me, Juneteenth is every day. To me, Black history is every day. To me, Black is 365. Please be learning about yourself, your people, your ethnic, you. It's something that can be learned every day. Honestly, when I found out more about my ancestors through Ancestry DNA, I felt very encouraged and very powered. So maybe you can too, like, please understand that these people was very courageous and very independent and got through those tribulations. You can too. So we're gonna go on to more Black facts. So Miss Hattie McDaniel was the first Black person to win an Oscar. First Black person to win an Oscar because of her part in Gone with the Wind, y'all. Gone with the Wind. All I can say is Black people, when it comes to the music industry, when it comes to the arts, we created it. Like Miss Zen said, we created it. The gospel, the blues, the R&B came from rock and roll came from R&B. There would be no rolling rock without R&B, baby. Country music. You might as well say it came from R&B because it's talking about sadness. It's talking about trials and tribulations and about obstacles. That's what R&B does too. So just know that we created everything. We are the blueprint. We are the footwork. Don't never let nobody tell you different because we could trace the paperwork to everything. And with that being said, how about Chuck Berry? Chuck Berry actually went to school for cosmetology and got a degree before he did music professionally. Like I literally just learned this. Just learned this off of this little page. Just learn. So every day you can learn something. And I just wanted to tell y'all a little bit about some Black facts that you may not know. But before we end this, episode today about Black history, loving yourself. I want to actually promote me. You gotta always be promoting yourself. And with that being said, I did unpublish my book so that I can re-edit and make it my own in purity. With that being said, I do have copies on hand if anybody wants to support and contact me on K's Vibes Facebook page to publish to pay. I take any forms of payment. This book I created called Melanin Poppin'. Melanin Poppin'. This image right here, when I created this, I was 18 years old. I was 18 years old. I've been writing and reading since I was in elementary and before. And just saying that, I used to love reading because I used to win AR tests and I used to win bites just because of reading, and it fueled me more because I loved reading. And with saying that, I had a fact that I learned that the theme song in Reading Rainbow was actually sung by Shaka Khan. Reading Rainbow was a song that I used to hear growing up when I was doing AR tests and encouraging me to keep reading. Knowledge is power, to keep reading and learning. So, with that being said, I wanted to read a poem that I wrote about Miss Sandra Bland. So, Miss Sandra Bland was actually one of the things we call police brutality and oppression. This this woman was attacked. It didn't even matter about her occupation. She was attacked at a traffic light. A traffic light and beating and took into jail. So I'm gonna go into that and I'm going to just read for you. Sandra speaks. Video is now rolling. April 2015. Hello. Good morning, you guys. There's a issue I would like to express. Being black in America is very hard. It's very hard. At that moment, Black lives matter. They matter. April the 8th, 2015, at 9:43 a.m. Why draw a black man wearing a noose fashioned from American flag? I tweeted saying, at first they used a noose. Now they do is shoot. Hashtag Black Lives Matter. Sandra Bland speaks. It was hard getting out of college trying to find a job. Not one but less than 10 of us blacks wouldn't have a paying income. But I was a realtor. I was a real estate director. I was a realistic person. Often I would air views on my police brutality, civil rights of African Americans. My words spoke awareness to be aware. I got caught up. I really did. They say I killed myself. They say I was not a murder, but the the mugshots show everything that I was covered. Weed. They say all blacks smoke weed. I guess I do. If I was accused of what you're assuming, I was stopped because of weed, not because of a real traffic violation, but because he had the audacity the audacity to and the authority to. I was stopped. I was checked. He said, "You're drunk." How did you know I was drunk before you stopped me? I was not even 0.8 drunk when you took the test. So why did you prosecute me? Why, Brian? Why, Brian, out of all people? Why stop me? Even if I was being sentenced, I still wanted to be treated like a human being. Where are my rights? Miranda, Miranda, did you call me? Where are you? Never was she spoke. Never when I was cuffed. While I was treated like a seaman, treated like a not human, y'all, not a toilet to even piss in. Only holes in a cell. To bow on my knees, I had to even just bow down to pee in a hole. I had bruises on my face, necks, my chest. Let's say it was a struggle. Oh, what a surprise. Hung by a noose. They killed me. Where are the cameras in jail? That's all I asked. Where are the cameras in jail to state my defense? That Bible that they opened and planted, the stages of the mud shots. Why was I lying on the ground? Don't the guards stop? Don't the guards supposed to check on me? Am I enough to be checked on and watched on? They say bruises from a fight of themselves. I said they was the oppressors, and I decided I had to fight. Animals, they saw me as fighting. My case still not solved. Justice still wasn't served. Miranda, 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 can you hear me? Yeah, still wasn't spoke. Still wasn't asked my Miranda rights. Where are you? Waller County in Texas. Where were you? Brian Esena, I saw you. I saw everything, but you saw nothing but my color. Nothing but my color, black. Black and was doing something with her life. Black and was trying to make an income. Black and had received a new job. I was driving and I was stopped because I assaulted you. July the 13th, 2015. No sign of struggle. My case was ruled suicide. Y'all, I'm shaking just reading this, trying to separate the anger. But my soul said otherwise. My soul says Waller County, Texas. Find the truth. Find the answers. Depression, ecstatic. Man asked me, have you ever been very depressed? No. Do you feel this way now? No. Have you had thoughts of killing yourself in the last year? You really gonna ask me this? No. Have you ever attempted suicide? No. But because they heard yes, because they say I am depressed, they say I killed myself before the accusations, before being pulled over, arrested because I wouldn't put out my cigarette. First, you don't have an actual case to go on. Two, I thought I was allegedly pulled over because of a traffic violation. Three, he asked me to get out. So when I refused, he pulled me out. Four, ma'am, you are under arrest. Five, I asked him why. Six, he did not answer. Seven, where's Miranda? Eight, he states it's an lawful order. Nine, as the officer slid his taser out his pocket, I blazed at the taser in front of me, the man in front of me, and I followed his order. 10. You must be a real man, huh? You must be a real man now, huh? Just slamming me, just knocking me in my head to the ground. But you say, amen. They say I killed myself because I fought, because of a noose comment, because of a traffic violation, a cigarette, a taser, a blow to the ground, hesitant to follow any orders. I am. I am Sandra Bland. July the 3rd, 2015. Justice was not found. Y'all, when I speak on that story about Sandra Bland, she was just a woman on the way to work, a new job as a real estate agent, real estate director. It's crazy how police brutality, it's crazy how the image of us just of a color is seen as violence when we're not that many violent people, but oftentimes we get seen as the aggressor for sticking up for ourselves. How am I in trouble just by going on the way to work? Just by trying to get to the way to work. This story about Sandra Bland really reminds me of the poem that I wrote called Scottish Brothers, about a group of young brothers who was on the train on the way to find a job. One little boy, he was the youngest of them all, 15 years old. He died. He died. They sentenced him to jail for life. He was the one who was sentenced the hardest, only because there were gentlemen on the train that was of the other race and accused them of whistling. Accused them. Accused them. Well, all he really wanted was to try to help his mother. So all I can say is, y'all, we gotta get up out the oppression. I understand a lot of times that we don't want to hear these stories, but these stories can be a fuel for us to keep going. Don't see it as pain and suffering. See it as fuel to keep going. With that being said, y'all, I love y'all K's Vibes fans, and please, please, please keep being black, keep being you, keep loving you. And I see y'all next Tuesday or Thursday. Stay tuned.